everyone, and welcome to another call. So today I have a good friend, Dominique, and we're going to be talking about healing your suppressed emotional baggage. But let me tell you a little bit about her first. So Dominique O'Brien is an energy healer specializing in helping families move through emotional challenges with more ease. As a certified emotion code practitioner, a former massage therapist, a homeschooling work-from-home mom, and a lifelong holistic health enthusiast, Dominique brings a unique perspective to her work. Her mission? To help moms feel more empowered and confident so that they can help their kids grow up feeling confident and happy in their own skin. Dominique, hi, and welcome to the call.
Hello. Thank you.
So I'm so happy that you're with us, and it's your mission is one of the reasons that I wanted to invite you into the call, because it's not only having, I mean, yes, I'm a mom, definitely the kids are important, but it's feeling comfortable in your own skin. And that's when we came up with today's topic about dealing with all that emotional baggage. It's so helpful in today's world. So thank you for joining.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, no, it is. It's so important. And it's so, I think kids, especially with all the social media and all this stuff, like there's so much bombardment, not only kids, moms, everyone. Right? We all are constantly comparing ourselves with images that we see that are, airbrushed and all that stuff. But just the sheer number of images we see and the sheer just influences we get from outside, and everyone's so busy, and we just haven't really, as a culture, given a lot of time to like our emotional health. Like it's all about eating healthy, exercising, and going to the doctor and getting your checkups and stuff like that. But then there's mental health that's kind of coming on a little strong lately because of all the aftermath of COVID and all that stuff. But like, yeah, I feel like emotional health is as important, if not more important, than all of those things. Because it's all connected. So it's not like one is more important than the other, but you can't ignore that piece because it really can affect.
But that's the sad part. Many of us are ignoring it because we don't recognize the signs.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not only do we not recognize the signs, we like are so trained to ignore it, push it away, to be like, I'm fine. Like, there is a time and place for the like grit and the like pushing through the pain and that sort of thing. But there's also a time and a place for acknowledging and accepting and feeling your pain and grieving when you're sad. And, emotions, I think, there's such a connection. Like it's like a way your spirit kind of can communicate with you, and your body can communicate, and you can kind of feel emotions from other people. So it's like this, I feel like it's really this kind of doorway to your inner self, to connecting with others, to really living kind of in alignment, and your health, like, and well-being, like on a mental level, a physical level, an emotional level, and a spiritual level. So
right. And I mean, so let's talk about a little bit, how did you get here? Because if we're talking about the suppressed emotional, and I'll tell you my part in a little while, because I'll share my story. But how did you get here that you actually discovered this?
Well, yeah, I think it was definitely a lifelong kind of journey. But something I remember growing up is I wanted to be strong. I also wanted to be like nice, and I wanted to like, I was a peacemaker, and I really did not like anger, conflict, anything. And at some point I decided that anger was bad and I was bad if I felt angry. So suppressed a lot of anger. And I was kind of described as one of those kids, and growing up, like, and even as an adult, like I didn't get angry often, but when I did, watch out, because I would explode.
Right.
And so my parents divorced when I was like 12. Then like a short time later, my mom moved out of state, moved in with my dad, but my mom took my little brother and sister. So our family got split. A couple years later, my dad got really sick, almost died. A year later, had a heart transplant. Then like a year later, died of lung cancer. So when I was a senior in high school. And I remember I didn't cry after my dad died. I saw my stepmother freaking out. And I felt like, okay, I have to be strong for my sister who was still living there. She was younger than me. I had an older sister in college and my two younger brothers and sisters. I felt like I had to be strong for everybody. And I didn't even cry. And I had this kind of idea that I had to be, that being strong meant not like letting yourself lose it and like being needy emotionally. And so I held everything in. And over time, through a lot of different things, let's fast forward to when I was pregnant. My best friend was also pregnant. She was about 6 months ahead of me. And 37 weeks in, they lost the heartbeat. They lost her, and her baby died. And I went and helped her in the hospital, and she had to have a stillbirth. And it was extremely emotional. And I was really like happy that I could be there for her. But then the aftermath of that was that I needed support because I felt guilty for having my own child still alive. I felt totally alone because after a while, when I started showing, she didn't want to see me because it would be too painful for her. And even though I understood it, it really hurt. And I didn't have any other friends that were moms. And I was already having a lot of issues with my husband, and that made it worse. And it was just very isolating. And I built up a whole lot of stuff for that. So this is kind of a long story, I guess. But anyway, after having my son, like he was always a very anxious, kind of very sensitive kid. And I really tried to do like everything right, do all this attachment parenting and breastfeeding forever and co-sleeping and like doing all the natural stuff. I had a natural birth in the hospital, which apparently I had a gaggle of med students in there because it was rare. Yeah. I found that out afterwards.
Am I having a birth or am I a lab rat?
Exactly. It was hilarious. And but I found myself just exhausted, always anxious, just feeling so isolated and so like a shell of myself. I didn't know who I was. I wanted to be this like model, like I wanted my son to be healthy and have a good relationship with himself and like himself. And I was like, I realized like I am not modeling that what I want for him and how like to be a strong, like independent, like happy. I'm not modeling that for him. And not only that, but like he started showing really massive anger issues, like started kicking and biting me. And that was like, I couldn't believe it because I had given everything to him, right? All of my time and energy. And so it's like, how could you be doing this to me? And I remember one time he had asked me for something. I said no, and he flipped out and started kicking, biting me. And I was like, I trying to do this like supportive thing, and from things I had read about like, okay, I can't let you hit me. I'm going to take you to your room and, keep you safe. Anyway, it didn't work. I was furious and I kind of threw him on the bed, like way harder than I would have liked. And it freaked me out. And I realized in that moment kind of how much anger I had suppressed. And that if I didn't want him to like, and of course the fear of like him becoming this angry adult that, you know, is unleashed on the world. And it scared me. And yeah. And I think luckily around this time I had been reaching out to get some help with my marriage. So I had reached out to a marriage coach, and she ended up referring me, after working with her for a little while, she referred me to an emotion code practitioner. And I felt like for the first time, things really started to shift. Like I was able to like let go of this just what felt like this weight of grief and anxiety and stress and depression and overwhelm and so many layers. And so I kind of realized, well, I have a lot of stuff to work through here. It may take a while. And I wanted to learn how to do it myself. And, you know, I have the massage background. I spent a year in India in an ashram. I was, you know, always interested in health. And another thing that was happening was my back was really, really hurting. And something I dealt with my whole life, but it had gotten to a point where it was like I couldn't do anything. And so I started learning how to do it on myself. So after working with her for a few months, I was like, okay, I'm going to get certified and I'm going to do this. And like what really got me hooked, the first time I did some practice session on my son and released like 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 even prenatal trapped emotions. So that's like a emotions and emotional energy you take on when you're in the womb. And like I said, I had a really stressful time when I was pregnant.
Right.
And like he had eczema. And, you know, I've tried all kinds of stuff to help it. Nothing worked. And after doing this session, the first time I did it on him, like the next day, his eczema was like way better. Within a week or 2, I can't remember how long it took, but it was pretty quick. It was totally gone. And the only thing I did differently was releasing it. And so after that, I was hooked, and I was like, okay, this works. Something really shifted in that. Also really like showed me how strong the connection between our emotional imbalances and our emotional self and the physical body is, and how we, especially kids, like show these imbalances and through their body, like skin stuff and tummy aches and headaches and that also helped me kind of get in touch with my own physical stuff and the connections between like this emotional stuff I had suppressed for so long, and how releasing, and like that was just creating these areas where my body just wasn't flowing like it needs to. Like energy needs to move, and if it doesn't, it gets stagnant, like a stagnant pond as opposed to a river. So that's kind of how I got into it.
And the thing is, as a mom, okay, first of all, as a mom, we do whatever we need to do. But as a mom, and we see it through their eyes, and I'm trying to refer back to what you said, as in helping him allowed you to see, okay, what do I need to deal with? Because it's kind of I always tell my clients, it's kind of like a hijacking the brain. So we hijack the emotion, because if we face it straight on, we want to keep suppressing that. And because our unconscious mind is like, no, we're not going to go there. Or our logical mind, we choose not to go there. Thank you for sharing the story. And it's funny because I have 2 things, and then I have a question for you. So for me, when I studied, so I did a 3-year alternative medicine program. And I remember the first week, first day, the teacher was like, the first year we will learn on all the basics, and you will learn to heal all your traumas and issues and repressed shit. And I sat there and I kept hearing everything everybody was sharing. And I was like, I had a good childhood. I'm normal. I don't have anything. I'll just learn from their experiences, and that's it. In my total mind, I had nothing repressed. I mean, to me, I heard the word, I knew what it meant, but it didn't affect me. By the end of the program, 3 years later, obviously it's a completely different story, because I realized all the repressed things that I had in my life that I didn't know I had. And my life completely changed, which is why I do what I do now. It's why I believe in what I believe. And then one of those is bioenergetics. So I don't know if you're familiar with bioenergetics. Okay, so for everybody listening, bioenergetics is where, in simple words, it's physical exercises that you do to release all the emotions and the energy that's in the mind, in the body, I'm sorry. And the mind doesn't even have to know what it is. We just allow the energy to release. When I went through my bioenergetics course, the stuff that came out, the emotions, the anger, the sadness, there was so much that I had repressed that I had no idea. I literally had no idea. And that's why working with somebody like yourself, or working with somebody that does bioenergetics or an exercise, or that's why sometimes we need to go to somebody like that, even if we don't think we have anything. That's my long story of why I wanted to say this.
Yeah, exactly. Because the logical mind and even the subconscious mind it's trying to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
And the programming it took on, at some point, those suppressing those emotions was appropriate. Maybe we were just way too young to understand it, or to deal with it, or we weren't in a safe place. We didn't have the support, or whatever, for whatever reason. But as kids, we like take on these so much, like the first 6-7 years of our lives, like we don't have a prefrontal cortex. We don't logically analyze things. We just feel stuff. We take on these blueprints and we twist ourselves into pretzels so that we can fit in and stay safe, because fitting in, staying safe, being needed, being part of the family, it's essential to survival. And it's our survival instinct, and it's first chakra stuff. And it's like in the womb and during the first 6 months of life is when our like nervous system is developing, and there's so much that happens that we can't even remember, and we have no idea. And so like any kind of like you said, to bypass like the conscious mind, because it'll try to it'll make every excuse in the book to keep us from seeing it, because it thinks that that's keeping us safe.
Right. And it's funny because when I work with somebody, I'm always like, I love you, and I'm going to say this from love. Do I have your permission to push your buttons when I need to push them? Because what happens is that sometimes if we don't do that for ourselves, that's why we have to go to somebody else so they can do that for us. Because if we don't do that to ourselves, we know up to where we go, and then we stop. But it's passing that barrier. It's passing that resistance that our own mind is trying to literally protect us from, like you're saying. So it's like, no. And you just get so used to stopping at that barrier, you stop recognizing it.
Exactly. And you think that like you said, like you don't even know it's there, because your mind will, we see all these things, but our mind will only like really focus on like 10% of what we see. And it'll find the things that will support what it wants to support, our ideas or whatever. And like this idea I had, this like decision I had made at some point, that like I wasn't going to get angry, because that meant I was bad, or I was not nice. And I have this letter. Okay, I don't know, it was like 15-20 years ago, I don't know. My mom pulled out this box of like old camp letters and just memorabilia and stuff, and I had sent a letter from camp. I used to go to camp like 2 months every summer. It was awesome. And up in the mountains in New Mexico. And I guess I had written this letter when I was like 10 or something, and it was like, I want to be nice. And I went on and on about being nice. Like, why did I want to be so nice? Like, not that I wasn't nice. Like I was nice already. Like I was a nice kid, but like, but this focus on like being nice. And I think it was like, really, like I said, I was a peacemaker. I did not like conflict. It made me uncomfortable. And I think I must have, my grandfather had some anger issues and would have a lot of, outbursts. And my dad didn't get angry that often, but when he did, it was also pretty scary. And I think I really took that on. I was a pretty sensitive kid, and I just saw when people get angry, they say mean things sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that, and I just never wanted to do that,
Right. Right.
And so, but I think it's really important too to like realize as an adult to like look at emotions from a totally different light, that like emotions are just energy. And there's a reason we feel all of these emotions. There's no emotion that is bad. Like the
Right.
whole negative and positive emotions, I think, is really deceiving and kind of does a disservice, because then it's like you feel like there's some that you have to avoid, or you have to
Not be. Right.
yeah, yeah, instead of like, sometimes anger is really helpful. Like it can really push you to stand up for somebody that's being bullied, or it can like push you to like make a change in your life. Like, I'm not going to take, like I am
Right.
not going to, for anyone who was like the first kid in their family to go to college, or to like, change jobs. And like, sometimes you need that little kind of push, or, I'm going to
Fire in
stand
your
up
butt.
for myself. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's very much kind of related to like the third chakra and like your self-esteem and stuff like that. So that I
Right.
find that really fascinating. Um,
But the thing is, so, and it's with what you're saying. Okay, I'm gonna go to a little story,
okay.
and then I'll express precisely that. So when I learned all of this, my daughter, I'm a single mom, have been for the last 18 years. I pushed myself to face the things that were coming up in me that I didn't want to see. I pushed myself when I learned, which is kind of a different topic, but I pushed myself to deal with them. Because if I wouldn't deal with them, that energy and that after effect, or whatever cause and effect was going to happen with my daughter, because that's what I was showing her. So in
Yeah.
order for her not to ever live through that, and whatever karma and whatever things I had to break, I faced them straight on, because I was not going to consciously give her anything. So that was part of it. But then the other part is that she was about 4, maybe, by the time this happened. So I'm studying alternative medicine, and like the whole thing. And she's this little beautiful rugrat with a I don't want to say the word in Spanish. She has a heck of an attitude. She's a great kid. She's always been, but she has a strong attitude. She's very will powered, very and
Mm-hmm.
very straight out. But she had the good girl syndrome, and I didn't want her to be that. I wanted her to be a good girl, because if not, I wanted to kill her, because being a mother's hard. Being a single mother's harder. Putting myself through 2 careers at the same time while raising her was hard. So I was like, please be good so I don't murder you and go to jail. But I didn't want her to grow up with a syndrome like that. So I remember grabbing, I think it was like a little, God, I can't talk today. A fake bat, like the kid bat, foam,
Okay.
like a
Oh,
foam.
okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Like
like
a
a
little
foam
foam
bat.
bat. Mm-hmm.
So I remember telling her, honey, whatever you feel towards mommy, mommy isn't going to get pissed off. Mommy isn't going to get this. Whatever. Get it out of your system. Yell it. Blah, blah, blah. Here's the bat. Hit the bed. First 3 seconds, she looked at me like, what? Like she was trying to process what I was telling her. That kid took the bat and I think almost broke the bat. And I was just like, I'm not going to say anything. That's what I told her I would let her do. I want her to express her feelings. And I had told her I wasn't going to get upset. So this little brat, I love her to pieces and I'm so proud of her, but it was hilarious because this little brat stops hitting the bed, stands up right in front of me. I was against the dresser. She stands up right in front of me and she just starts mimicking me, like annoyed. And that's the voice that she heard of me. Like she was replaying it back to me. So I
Yeah.
just let her. I just let her and I let her go. And she went on and on and on and on and on. And I was like, holy crap, that has a lot. And I'm like, and she's 4. Like, wow.
Yeah.
And when she was done, you could tell. And I recognize it because that's what I felt. When I release all those emotions, your body just kind of relaxes and you go into this, this feels good. And I see this little 4-year-old yelling, hitting in my face, telling me all these things. And then I see her go through that. She's like, okay, mommy, I'm done. Can I go now? I'm like, go ahead. And then I was like, oh my God. But that's the whole thing. It's allowing ourselves and allowing our kids, our family members, whoever it is, we've never been allowed to do that. If I would have done that to my mom, I mean, that would have not been her reaction. And she just didn't know.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's like learning how to hold space for your own emotions so that you can hold space for others. Because like I was saying, when my son would get angry at me, it pushed my buttons and triggered my own stuff. But I couldn't, what I really wanted to do was help him work through his anger. I knew that's what I consciously wanted to do, but I like could not do it because I was so like, and you know, at least the awareness was
Right.
there, right?
Right.
So I could take myself out of the situation, but yeah, and that's so funny because I started doing that with my son as well. When he would get angry, I'm like, we made all these, he's super into Star Wars. And that started many years ago. And so we had made all these lightsabers out of foam pool noodles, and we still have them. And we actually just started doing this like 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And because I was like, when he would get angry, I knew he needed an outlet. He needed a physical outlet. Like we need to physically move and get it out of our bodies. And so, yeah, sometimes just talking about it's just not enough, especially for a kid. And so I would be like, all right, let's go have a lightsaber duel. Or I'd be like, at first I was like, told him to like hit his bed with his like furry friends or pillow or something, but that got a little kind of crazy because the room would just be disastrous. So like, let's figure out another way. And I got him like this air punching bag, and that worked until it got a hole in it. But so the lightsaber doodles were awesome because yeah, you could like go around, like, you know, take your anger out, like, and I'm holding it. And so it's like, it's okay. I understand, like, you're allowed to get angry at me. It's okay. Like, I make mistakes. I say things that are not nice sometimes, and I'm so sorry. And I want you to tell me if you're angry with me. I want you to be able to express it. And it has helped him so much. And yeah, it's an ongoing thing. And now I feel like when he gets angry, it's like I'm able to just be calm and present and let it like bubble up and unfold however is right for him in that moment. And it can be different times. But it's really powerful to be able to hold space for somebody's emotions. And I think, yeah, becoming a mom, it's one of the most transformational experiences, because all of a sudden, yeah, you're living with a little mirror, and it's and you either choose to, like you said, deal with it full on and like, okay, notice, like realize these are my suppressed emotions, like, and do I want to pass them on or not? And it's like, it's okay. Like we all take on stuff. And not only that, but we take on stuff from our ancestors. And while we're in the womb, we absorb things from other people. I mean, there's a lot. Like, so yeah, like the less we can give our kids to deal with, the better off they'll be, and give them tools to work with stuff, like to know, and to just like know that it's okay to get angry. It's okay to feel sad. Like it hurts. It's hard sometimes to go there, but it's okay. Like, and after you cry, you feel better. Like, and it also is always a reminder to me, like helping him through his, it's like a reminder to me that like, oh yeah, you know, I acknowledge my own emotions and let myself feel them. And that's how I move through stuff, because I still have stuff, and new and old.
Right. And that's the thing. It's okay. For some reason, I told you I never know what I'm going to ask. Here's one of them. Ready?
Okay.
So for some reason, I'm led to ask you right now. We're talking about obviously our experience individually, our experience as a woman, and our experience as a mother. Mm-hmm. But as you are saying that right now, what advice or tools, or how do you see it when it comes to men? And the reason I'm going to say that is because women are technically more geared towards the talking and the emotional and the seeking help. I run a lot of women's circles. And I'm talking with some men about doing a men's circle, not so much the way I run it because they're not into like the cutesy little things. But there's a lot of men that have been taught either through life or through their parents.
Or
You
through
can't
messaging,
cry.
social
You
messaging.
can't, right. You're not a man, you're not a macho, you're not this, you're not that. And I'm not talking about like the facade that people put on, but they have so much inside them and it's all emotions that they haven't learned how to deal with. So from your experience, what advice would you give men that find themselves that, I mean, I want to say the term get in touch with their, but it's not that. It's getting in touch with their own emotions and what they're feeling inside.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of messaging in our culture, and whether it comes from our parents or movies or just societal norms or playground or whatever, that men are taught that they need to be tough, that boys don't cry, that feeling emotional is weak. Yeah, I think becoming aware of the fact that emotions are just energy and that there's a positive and a negative side to, or I just said earlier that well, I said we shouldn't label them
Right.
all negative or all, there's a balanced
There's a
and out of
balance.
balance.
Right.
Yeah, there's like a balanced and out of balanced um state of each kind of emotion, right? And yeah, like I have a client who's a man who's just been diagnosed with cancer. And he said something really profound in one of our sessions recently, that he was like, you know, I was getting really angry and I want, I don't want to deal with like all this emotions. Like, I know I have a lot of stuff, but I don't want to deal with it. And at the same time, I know I need to. So I'm choosing to, even though I really don't. And I think acknowledging that you don't want to deal with it, that you don't, is really, really, really important and really powerful. And that acknowledging that it's really uncomfortable and finding someone, I think for men especially, it's really important to find someone or some kind of tool that works to help them release their emotional stuff. And the great thing about the emotion code is like you don't have to relive all your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
We find them, we release them, and it can be a little uncomfortable. Like you can feel like a percentage of like the emotional stuff, but you're not having to relive everything
Right.
that you've been suppressing. Like
Right.
um we use muscle testing and charts to like pinpoint like what it is, what emotion, when it was trapped. And usually you only need to know a little bit about it, what the emotion is and when it was trapped. And if, and you can release it and then you move on. And, it's not like you release everything you have overnight. I mean, it is a process. It's like going to the gym, you don't go once. It's like, it's like
Yeah.
getting better at any kind of sport. Even if you have an affinity for it the first time you try it, you're not going to get good at it unless you practice. Like, so it's kind of like that. But so I think for men, I think it really is important to get some help, to find, because yeah, if you have been told your whole life that it's not safe or it's not manly to go there, like it's just going to be hard. It's going to be extra hard. Like, not saying you can't do it, because definitely some men have, but yeah, it takes like, yeah, I think, like you said before, getting some outside help can just be extremely powerful and make things go a lot smoother and a lot easier. And, you know, my other advice, I think, is try different things out, because you may, and even try different practitioners out of the same modality. There are so many different ways to move energy, to process emotions. And like, you know, my husband, he likes to go to the chiropractor and go get massages when like he's feeling off. And, you know, that's a great place to start. You know, body work is a great place to start. Start wherever you're at. Like what feels like, what are you drawn to? What are you comfortable enough with to try? And then that'll lead to different things. I mean, the first time somebody did Reiki on me, I was a snowboard instructor, and I hurt my foot somehow, and I was like having to take some kind of time off, and she was one of my fellow instructors, and she's like, well, do you want me to do some, I'm a Reiki master, I can do some, you know, Reiki on you if you want. And I was like, okay, sure. And so she put her hands on my feet, and it started getting really hot, and I freaked out. I am like, oh, I'm good. Never mind. Like right. I pulled my foot away, and I like freaked out. And I, you know, shortly after that, I went to massage school and I kind of started learning about energy work. Right. And I was like, oh, that's what that was. It was just like this healing going on in my foot and energy moving, and it got a little warm, and like, but it just shows like, you know, I would have never dove into this work at that point in my life. I wasn't ready for it. I needed to learn a lot more. And I didn't have the motivation to go there either, and to dig into my own stuff. And like you said, like having kids, it's a big motivator.
Yeah. Well, until you had the motivator right in front of you. And I think that's the thing with men and with women. It's an undescribable, because we don't know how to explain, but there's a moment in our life when we're ready, which is what we're just ready for whatever's next. Some of us have those moments a lot of times in life, while some of us just have a big aha and their whole life changes with just that one. And everything is great. Again, it's no judgment, it's no comparison, it's not good or bad, but it's learning to deal with the present, and especially with the emotions. So it's funny, and I told you off camera, but my last 2 shows have all talked about emotions as well, and it just happened to be. And the thing is, yes, we all approach it from a very different way. But I think right now, like as you and I are talking, I think the most important thing, again, for men, women, children, whoever it is, it's learning to understand that, yes, emotions are neither good or bad. There's no such thing as a positive emotion and a negative emotion. Those are all labels we want to give it to. But if we actually sit down and accept it and understand in a feeling kind of way what the emotion is really trying to tell us, it's there to help us. Because I think so many of us, and especially men, and a lot of women have gotten there, and I've been there, we get too logical into trying to understand through our mind, what does this mean? What is this telling us? The scientific proof to this crap. But if we eliminate all that and literally act like a 2-month-old that has no vocabulary, to say it in one way, it doesn't mean it doesn't have intelligence, but it has no vocabulary. And just feel through the energy of that emotion. In my mind, that would eliminate so many problems, so many pains, physical, emotional, life. I don't know. For me, it's just kind of the way I'm seeing it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think, you know, deep down, all of us, male, female, whatever, we all want to feel seen, heard, accepted, and valued. And, you know, unfortunately, our parents weren't always able to give us that for whatever reason. And, you know, I think also trying to, just understanding that, like, our emotional baggage. One of the reasons I named my company Emotional Baggage Transformed is because I really do think it's important to transform the way we look at emotional baggage, because instead of looking at it as like it's what's wrong with me. It's my like dark side. It's this stuff I hate about myself. It's like, no, at whatever, whatever journey we've gone on, those are things that we experienced, moments that were hard, or, and our self at that moment did the best it could to keep us safe, to keep us alive, to keep us surviving. And that's what, our instinct, our deep down instinct is also survival. Um, and then the next thing is we want to feel seen, heard, and valued and accepted, right? But sometimes the survival kind of takes over. And I think it's kind of shifting from looking at it as like that something's wrong with us because we have this emotional baggage. It's like, no, it's actually like a map to who you really are, what you're really like passionate about, where your like heart wants to take you in life. And because when we close ourselves off to the so-called negative emotions, we can't really feel the positive ones either. And we create this like energetic kind of emotional wall between us and the world. And there's a thing in emotion code we call a heart wall, which is literally like trapped emotional energy we pack around our heart to keep us from feeling hurt, because it is hard to feel hurt. But like, and that's why it's so important as parents, and whether you're a father or a mother, like it's just as important to be able to hold space for your child's feelings, so that they learn that it's okay. They don't have to protect themselves from pain. If they feel it, they can move through it and they'll be okay on the other side. Right. And they're not shamed for feeling whatever. And so I think, it's partly it's becoming aware and making a choice of, do you want to like, I don't know, do you want to pass on this stuff to your kids, or do you want to like help them like do better and have a better,
a better chance at life, at a fun, a happier life,
to live, to be happy in their own skin, to live like follow their passions, and to be courageous in following their dreams. And like I had said before, like one of the things when I like got to that point where I felt like I was like my rock bottom, like I didn't even know what I wanted or what I liked or like who I was. Like I felt like a shell of myself. Like I had always like I had spent so long putting other people's emotions first and other people's needs first. And it's really like by acknowledging our feelings and allowing ourselves to feel them, and also acknowledging that we don't want to feel them, it literally allows us to see and hear and validate our own self so that we can feel accepted and seen and heard. Because the truth is, we cannot really get that from anybody else. We really do have to, at some point as adults, give that to ourselves first. And I used to like kind of wonder what, that expression, you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else. I heard that all, growing up, and I was like always intrigued, like, what does that really mean? And I think that's part of what took me to India. And like, I didn't get it. And it didn't get it until I started allowing myself to feel my emotions, to process what my experience was, and to validate my own feelings and recognize that my feelings are just as important as everybody else's. And I can feel angry without lashing out at somebody and hurting somebody. It's okay to feel angry. There's something this anger wants to tell me. Like if I can listen to it, that's a way that I see and hear and validate myself and feel accepted. And then that shifts the energy with everybody else in my life. And I've seen it so many times. Like I'll do a session on myself where I'll have a big breakthrough. I used to also do, or I still do a lot of tapping as well, because I think it's a really great way to, for me, it helped me feel my emotions to do tapping. And I don't know if anybody, I'm sure some of the audience knows EFT tapping or whatever. But it's a really good way to like allow yourself to just feel your emotions and let them run their course. And so I remember having like a big argument with my husband. And then I would go and do some tapping and I would cry and I would just be like, you know, and in my head. And I would try to do it all silently because I was in the same house. And by the way, don't do this with your 2-year-old child because it could kind of scare them, which, yeah, I learned. Anyway, because you get all angry and upset and then they're like, what is wrong with you? And then I'm like, bawling. Like literally like 2 minutes, like once I kind of like, relieved it, like literally within a minute or two, like my husband would come in, I'm really sorry. I don't know what like came over me and this and that. Like, oh, and that happened enough times.
Well, because you're shifting your energy. So if you shift your energy, it affects the energy of everybody else. Exactly. And okay, actually, that leads me to a good question. Not question, more or less as a statement. Our emotions are energy. We are frequency beings, period. We just like calling them different things just to live in this reality. But
yeah, exactly.
When we shift our emotions, our energy rises. So again, it's not the good energy, bad energy, higher energy.
Different vibrations.
Exactly, because those heavier anger, sadness, depression, you feel dense, you feel heavy. Those are more dense vibrations.
Yeah.
Once you change that and you actually lighten it up, that's a way we can all change the world. It's not just our lives.
Yes.
If we all learn how to deal with this, if we all know how to do that, I can influence. I keep talking about my neighbor. I keep influencing my neighbor. Yeah. I think it was a different video. I'll explain later. But it's precisely that, because what you just said, you influenced your husband's energy by you changing your energy. Yeah. It's not to manipulate, because that's a totally different vibration and people have to understand that. That's a totally different
it wasn't trying to change his energy.
No. I'm saying it exactly. For you. I'm just saying people in the audience. I don't want them to be like, oh, I want my husband to change, so I'm gonna do. No, that's not what we're talking about. That way. Right. It's not what we're talking about. You can give it a try, but that's not what we're talking about. But yeah, I mean, and that's the beauty of doing the work that you do. And I think we're coming down to like the last few minutes of the call, but I wanted to make sure to say that because dealing with our emotions doesn't only help us live this 3D reality day by day in and out world. There's so much going on energetically in us, around us, and what we can do to help each other. Yeah. That I think going and doing a therapy like this, working with somebody like yourself, can help and heal in so many different ways.
Yeah, it can. And there's no way we could ever figure it all out in our heads. There's all this subtle energy that I'm still learning. So many layers. There's so many like connections and but yeah, it's energy and emotions. Like I said, I think I said this in the beginning, it's really like a doorway to like connect those more subtle energies and our physical body, and also with other people and like our own hearts. And like it's like this it's like this central kind of connecting hub or something. And by feeling our emotions, and it's like it takes us into that space. And I think, I don't know where I read this at some point, but you know, like you said, the different emotions are different vibrations, and some are the higher frequencies and some are the lower, more dense frequencies. And it's like you're either moving towards love or you're moving towards fear.
Yep.
And you know, fear can be useful sometimes. It can keep you safe sometimes, right? So even that, it's not negative, but it is more dense. Do you want to live in fear? Do you want to be making your decisions out of fear? Or do you want to be making your decisions out of love and trust and connection and intention, like from that like center of your being? Or, you know, do you just want to try to stay safe all your life? And you're going to have a lot of different experiences.
Right. Yeah. I'm writing that down because I'm actually writing that down for me because something in that just kind of hit me. Because so love and fear, I mean, A Course in Miracles teaches there's two thought systems. One's love based on love, and anything that isn't love is fear.
Maybe that's where I heard that from.
Well, actually, it's precisely what I was going to say. Every kind of different modality out there, eventually, at some point along the line, are all based out of that same idea, because that's the one truth, regardless how many ways we want to see it. And the thing is, again, a lot of people have screwed up what the definition of love is. But when we're talking about love, it's in higher vibrations. The way I explain it is just, do you want to feel good?
Yeah.
That's it. When we're sad, when we're pissed, when we're depressed, and I've been there and I fall into it. I'm not perfect. I'm human and I have emotions going through me, sometimes all of them at once.
Yeah.
But it's how do you define that? Well, what do you want to feel? Do you want to heal? Or what is it? How do you want to feel? Do you want to feel heavy and dense and stressed out? Or do you want to find something that's going to help you feel happy and light and joyful? I mean, who doesn't want to feel that? And the definition of that is very different for everybody.
Yeah.
But I think that's the gift that emotions give us.
And and I think what you said too about like, you know, we kind of sometimes get mistaken with like the definitions, because it's like, yeah, we want to feel happy, but you can't skip over. Like if you're feeling the heavier emotions, the way out is through. Like you can't just skip over them. And I think that's like that, like sometimes like positive affirmations and stuff will just be like, oh, you can just choose happiness. And I think in the moment, sometimes that can help you get through a certain situation or whatever. But unless you actually like process or release that energy, it's going to be stuck. It's like a stuck spinning ball of energy, like when your computer gets frozen. It's like, and it stays there and it'll attract more of that energy. And so it's just like you want, and like I kind of like the image of like, do you want your body to be a stagnant pond, or do you want to have rivers of clean water? Like, right? Because that's the thing. Like we can't ignore those heavier emotions. Like we have them for a reason. They're trying to tell us something. And yeah, like it's uncomfortable and sometimes it really sucks. And at the same time, like, yeah, if you want to feel happier, like you got to go through them.
Right. And it's tough. It is a tough thing to do sometimes, because personal experience, and I was just talking to somebody today, even though we know that we need to get through it, a positive affirmation is not going to help when you're so deep down in the crap.
Yeah.
And you need to do something heavier. You need to do something more, because I would say a positive affirmation, and then my sarcastic, logical self will be like, the hell with that. Right. Like, that is so not effing true.
Right.
But the truth is, yes, we have to go through it. And we just said it sucks, and it does. And we've all had to go through it. And that's part of the beauty in learning different techniques and talking to different people and seeing different things. What works for you that's actually going to push you and throw you off the airplane with a parachute and say, I got you, but you got to jump.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think that is the beauty of having so many different modalities and so many different people that you can turn to for help. And I think asking for help is one of the biggest things you can do. I know for me, I always try to do everything myself and be self-sufficient and not need anybody and not ask for anything, but it just keeps you stuck, and it just keeps you in a spiral of like
having to do everything by yourself spiral as well.
Yeah, because we don't live in the world by ourselves.
Exactly. Well, I try to. No, I'm kidding.
We are more connected to everybody in the world than we realize it. I mean, I think COVID is a great example of that. How quickly did it spread around the world? You know?
And how quickly did we realize we're all the same?
Yeah.
Everybody was different. We're not even going to go there, but
yeah.
It brought so many, right, but it brought so many ahas that, again, if we look at it from that side, it's like, what a nice teaching. We're leaving it at that. Honey, we're running out of time. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you.
Where can people reach out to you? How can they find you? We'll put the comments and anything you say below on the link, but where can people reach out to you?
The best place is probably my website, emotionalbaggagetransformed.com. And there's a place on there you can send me a message or, set up a free call to just see if it's something that would work for you, if you're interested. And I do have a Facebook business page as well, Emotional Baggage Transformed,
okay.
on Facebook, but I honestly am not all that active on Facebook, so my website's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay, so
but you can send a message to Facebook too if that's your thing.
Okay, I'm making a website more. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. This has been awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.